fancy.
You like it?
I usually got my little zoomy iPad or whatever.
Yeah.
I just sit back in the hotel room and drink cafe lattes. Not cafe lattes. Black coffee. Harsh black coffee. All right, ready?
The Blueline Bowhunters podcast starts right now.
2023, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Undisclosed location. The tall man in a cowboy hat and cowboy boots sat between Jared Bruno and Matt Steele of the Blueline Bowhunters. The man was accomplished in many areas. A naturalist, expert in West Canadian artifacts, outfitter, TV producer, and host of the Professionals, Uncharted, and Shock Therapy on the Outdoor Channel. Most recently, though, the man has risen to stardom as an author. Some know him as Icarus, others as Sisu, the man of swords. To Simon & Schuster, he said, "Call me Hunter." Our guest today on the Blueline Bowhunters podcast, presented by Mountain Ops, is none other than the legendary Mr. Jim Shockey.
Holy cow.
Oh, that intro.
Yeah, that's the best one ever yet. I actually got shivers. You have a good voice.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I always say it's the voice of an angel, right?
So, no, I just wanted to do something special for you, Jim. We're so appreciative of you doing this with us. We love doing face-to-face podcasts. I know you said you normally do them on Skype, and you drink your black coffee while you're doing it.
Yeah, that's right. I also gave him orders not to talk about my cafe latte.
Yeah, that's funny.
So we just really appreciate you're on your book tour for Call Me Hunter, published by Simon & Schuster, and it's been huge for you. It's been amazing, and we've loved watching you on your tour. And Jared and I actually were like, well, we're going to meet the guy. We got to read this book.
Yeah. So we muscled through for the last couple of days because our shift work, doing what we do, it's kind of hit and miss. So I know Matt hit it pretty hard whenever he first heard about you coming to town, and we wanted to do this with you. And, Matt bought both, of us books and
The audio books, right?
Well, we bought the hardcover because you don't know this yet, but we're going to ask you to sign them later sheepishly. And then, but we bought the audio books just because of our jobs.
Yep.
Sitting down and reading for a couple hours we can't do. So, but we're both on the road constantly, so doing an audio book it's advantageous for us. So thank you for doing that. And I actually think Scott Brick did a great job with the voice inflections. I truly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But then you reading the part of Icarus and Sisu through it was just awesome.
Yeah, just the fill-ins,
That was written in second person, which is never done in a novel. It's like literally there's 5 examples where an author has written second person perspective in a novel. It's done in autobiographies. Mm-hmm. So when they first, Simon & Schuster, they think highly of the book. They gave me 21 different people, voice actors, and they said, we want you to pick 7 of them for the different characters. And I listened to all 21 of them, and there's one that had a smoky, raspy voice, and the rest sounded like millennial voiceover actors.
Okay.
Right. And, you've read the book, so Joan of Arc. I mean, this is a lady that's been to the edge and back again.
Right.
She's seen it all. She doesn't sound like, hey, how's it going? Valley Girl stuff. So when I listened to him, I said, I actually got back to Simon & Schuster and I said, thank you very much, but no. I need to read the second person perspective myself. I mean, Zhivago is dead. I hunted him down and I killed him. That's
awesome.
That's my voice. That's second person. I'm telling someone a story, telling Yala the story. The rest of it, they said, who do you want? And I said, Scott Brick, period. Yeah. I didn't even give him another choice. I said, I want Scott Brick. He did all the Clive Cussler novels, Michael Crichton novels. I mean, Scott is just, I think he's done 800 novels. And I couldn't think of anybody else.
His Russian accent in it is incredible. When he plays the guy with the white pointy beard.
Pointed beard.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. I actually haven't heard my. I'm
should
really
listen to
worried.
it. It's pretty good.
Yep.
Is it?
It's pretty good.
I'm not
good
worried
book.
about Scott Brick. I'm worried about my nasal whine voice.
Yeah, no.
You mean we did? You know.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
It was
before.
perfect the whole way through, I think. Yeah.
So we're going to get into the book and talk about the book. I mean, we're just excited because we read it, and I don't want everyone out there that hasn't read the book to feel like they're being left out. But I guess just go into the book a little bit as far as like I think it was extremely intelligent, and I'm not just saying that because Jim Shockey's sitting here, but the use of like all the facts. I mean, it's a nonfiction, but it's a fiction, or is it
Or is it?
Or is it?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's just so smartly done. I mean, I'm with Nyala the whole time Googling stuff. I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm Googling.
Trying to look up like
Eva Mendel Miller.
Did
I'm
this
like,
happen? Yeah.
Did she really die in 2019? No,
Yep.
she did.
I'm doing the
She
same
was 100
thing.
years old.
Right.
Wow, this is real.
Yep.
Like you feel like you're there. So
Eva Mendel Miller. You know what's interesting? I have a painting by her. She was an accomplished artist, trained under Hoffman. So this is a weirder story. I grew up in Saskatoon, where the Mendel Art Gallery existed until they shut it down. One of Canada's finest art galleries, and Eva Mendel Miller was the one that was instrumental in creating it. She taught my mother how to paint, so she'd do painting lessons or art lessons at the Mendel Art Gallery. And while I was writing it, I literally was writing about Eva Mendel Miller, and just out of the blue, I thought I'd Google it. This was during COVID, so and lockdown COVID. We weren't allowed to leave our little local area, and I looked, and a painting by Eva Mendel Miller was at an auction in Vancouver, which is just across the water. Now you weren't allowed to attend, and everybody, the world was ending, so no one was buying anything.
Right.
So I bought Eva Mendel Miller's one of her paintings, and it's in our Hand of Man Museum.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, and a total, like, this is her speaking. This is the weird thing about this book when you say, how much is real, how much is not. She was speaking. Now, how else? Why would it happen right then? That, and I don't think there's a single one of her paintings that aren't in institutions or in some, maybe some hoity-toity gallery somewhere. But we have one in our Hand of Man Museum, an actual Eva Mendel Miller.
that's incredible. Now, did your daughter's name come from that?
From no,
Okay.
no, Eva. Yeah, I mean, there's so many names that would work for Eva. Just sort of the whole Adam and Eve and Sweden.
Because as you're floating around through the book and you're listening to everything, you're like, man, is that where his daughter's name?
Yeah,
like, and then like his wife.
I mean, there's
and
a
everything.
lot of in this book. It's kind of like, because I guess you got me, because when I opened this book, I was expecting, I knew nothing. You shocked me when you said, I'll do a podcast with you. I'm like, man, I got to read this book. So I open it up, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to tell me about him being an outfitter in the Yukon, and they're hunting, bears. And it starts out with Zhivago is dead. I'm like, who in the world is Zhivago, and why is he dead? So you really got me there, and I think that it's almost like the first thing I thought of Zhivago is dead. It's like Call Me Ishmael. It's like Moby Dick starting out.
One of the podcasters, a really brilliant podcaster, and you guys are too, by the way. Thank you. Seriously, your intro was pretty fancy, and you read the book. Not all the podcasters that I've been on have read it, so they're just out there asking
and a blue
questions.
Yeah, right.
But this fellow is, I can't remember his name, Evans. It'll come to me, but he said that he reads a lot. That's what he does, his book reviews, and he thinks that that's one of the greatest starting lines of a novel. And he said the same thing, that it was the same as.
That's what it reminded me of. Is Moby Dick. It just instantly caught your attention.
It's a hook.
Like,
it's just
right.
right
Besides being confused why we weren't talking about hunting in Alaska,
right.
I was like, okay, this is going to set the tone for sure.
My journals. I kept journals like religiously since the beginning, and just my Africa journals alone are over 1 million words.
Oh, wow.
Typewritten out 1 million words. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, there's North America, Asia, South Pacific, South America, and writing about hunting is honestly just not challenging.
Right.
It's not something I wanted to use my time up at the beginning of this. Now I've got right now 4 books in the queue that are written, done, and one of them is guiding bears, stories of guiding bears, 2 humor books, and one a love story that I wrote, while Louise was going through what she was going through, our family was going through over the last 2 years. That one's also ready for design. And then I've pared down just the Africa journals to 180,000 words. Well, Call Me Hunters, 130,000.
Right.
So who's going to read 180,000 words?
Coming from
I
you,
need to get it down.
Yeah. Coming from you, though, I think there's quite a few people that might read that.
Well, don't tell me that, because that just makes more work for me.
Right. That's funny.
Was it Churchill that said, "You want me to write a 1-hour speech, that'll be $1,000. You want me to write a 10-minute speech, that'll be $10,000.
Right.
Because it's hard work to get something shorter.
Right.
What do you cut out?
Exactly.
What do you take out? So you guys want to read it. I can't give you 180,000 words, and I'm going to have to pare it down to 120.
Try to figure out what
but I'll get all of that will be done. I've always wanted to bring everybody along on our trips, wherever we were around the world on our television. It's the same thing for writing.
Right.
So I kept journals so that someday, this may not be available. Some of those countries, you go try and get into Somalia right now.
Right, exactly.
Chad or Central Africa Republic, Liberia.
There's a lot of places getting like that right now, and it's sad.
Yeah, I was in Pakistan, Iran,
right,
China.
Everything that's on the news right now, basically.
Yeah. You won't get in there anymore.
So much of the unknown at this point in time.
Yeah. So those stories will come, but they wouldn't have been a challenge for me. I don't know, say intellectually. They're easy.
It comes too easy for you to write.
It's
just
not
to write
a challenge,
that out.
and the accomplishment is directly proportional to the challenge.
Absolutely.
So the greater the challenge, the greater the accomplishment. Well, writing a novel, there's not any harder part of the book writing world, the author world. Like Eva wrote her Taking Aim book. Well, that's an autobiography. Those sell. Like, that's what people want to see. I mean, Britney Spears got hers out there right now. It's right at the top of the list, and Elon Musk.
Right.
These are those sell automatically. Eva's book sold. She actually is pretty happy to tell me that her advance was twice as big as mine. Excuse me.
She does have the following.
No, you got that right. She tells me that every day, too.
That's funny.
A lot bigger following than my following.
Rubbing it in, huh?
Oh, yeah. But I wanted the challenge.
Right.
And it was a story that I started. I mean, I was 10 years old. I knew I'd be a novelist someday. I started at that age, and I just...
We probably started watching you at that age.
Yeah.
Yep.
I get guys I get guys in their late 40s say, I was watching you when I was a kid. I go, no,
absolutely.
We're in our late 30s. So.
Yeah, there you go. And I think about go, you could have, because I started in 1984.
Yep.
Yeah. So holy smokes.
A lot of that interest of international travel and international hunting and the way I look at things like that comes from you, So it's like...
Well, I appreciate that. When I first started, wanted to do the television and the videos, they said it's never going to work if it's not whitetails or turkeys.
Right.
So that's where the market is. I said, I don't think so. I think hunters are hunters.
Right.
And hunting isn't just about the animal.
Right.
It's about the entire experience.
Right.
The kill or whatever the species is.
We had that conversation with a recent guest, which was Donnie Vincent, and it came across as that you have to be you. So everybody in the whitetail world, they try to be Michael Waddell. You know what I mean? But Michael's Michael.
Who wants to be like Michael? What? Are you serious?
But like international stuff, it's like you're the man when it comes to that. So it's like you doing yourself and your own thing of the international travel and like the hunting and like everything that accumulates with that, and you telling those stories, like that's where it comes from.
I've seen, obviously I've been around a long time, and I've seen a lot of younger, hopefuls that they want to be hunting celebs or whatever you want to call it. And what I tell them is you have to be honest.
Right.
You have, Donnie Vincent said you have to be you. He's exactly bang on.
Right.
And if you're you and it resonates, then you've got that X factor that you can't say this and this and this and you do this. It's not formulaic.
No.
So, and what I say is, be you, because you can be you constantly and never have to
People
think
can pick
about
that out, right?
Of course.
They can spot a phony.
The viewers are far too sophisticated nowadays to, they recognize when someone's, hey, wow, it's not you're faking it. That's not how you're feeling right now.
Exactly. Yep.
You're not
Overly
being
excited
honest.
and just too fake. Right.
And people see that. And if you think you got to do that, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
But if you're you and you resonate with the viewers and you're being honest with whatever your story is, and it works, then great. You've got a career. And if it doesn't work, change your career, because you can't fake it.
I think that's where that comes from when you wrote this book. Like, you're a big fan of art, and you have countless pieces of artwork in the museum and stuff at Hand of Man, and you being the fan of that, this story alone is a painting of itself. So, like, the way you tell, like, the words and you speak it in there, and it's the way it's written, is just a piece of artwork on its own.
Boy, do I appreciate that, because I said that yesterday to somebody, I can't remember who I was talking to, but this is art.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's not...
The way you orchestrated the story was just incredible. And that was a question I had, is there's so many facts in there. Did you know all those, or did you have to do a lot of research during the lockdown time?
So am I smart or am I dumb? Is that what you're asking?
No.
What kind of a question is that?
I'm trying to ask how smart you are. No. It's just...
How many pages a minute can you read?
Right.
Hunter?
Are you an idiot savant? No. But,
okay, well, here's the thing. This story is autobiographical, but I've woven in a fictional storyline to it.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing here, and because you guys are police officers, I'll say it this way: 80% of what you're reading is truth, and the 20% that would put anybody in jail, that's fiction.
Right.
So that there, I'm not. You can't lock me up for anything that you read.
Yeah, this is the initial interview for you. Yeah. Little do you know. Yeah.
I should have a lawyer sitting here with you two guys.
That's funny.
What are you doing blabbering to those guys?
That's funny.
I mean, just like, from the Ellis Brandt decoys to the like we talked about, Eva Mendel Miller, to Robert De Niro Sr. That was a rabbit hole you sent me down on Wikipedia. I'm like, wait, Robert De Niro Sr. is gay, and he left his wife a year after the Robert De Niro that we all know from the movies was born. I was down a rabbit hole. It was like midnight, and all of a sudden I'm on Wikipedia, and I'm like, all of a sudden it's 1 a.m. and I'm like, what am I doing right now? I just keep going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I think quicksand is what you said in the preface.
I would love somebody with a lot of money to just hire a private detective, 10, I don't care, and dig into it.
Yeah. And
you'll find, like you mentioned, the Ellis Brandts, and in there's a fellow, Randy Rifle, and Peter Brown. These are all real people.
Right.
And the character at the time was Icarus, because his name changes throughout the book. Yep. He sold 7 Ellis Brandts. Remember, he found them and sold them to Randy Rifle.
Right.
In the end, and if you talk to Randy Rifle today, he can't deny. He cannot deny. And just for the record, I regret selling those Ellis Brandts. They were low-head Ellis Brandts, or not Brandts. They were decoys. They weren't the Brandts. Peter Brown. He donated his entire collection, I think, to the Winnipeg or Manitoba University, somewhere along the way. And you'll see in there, the characters talk about these people. They can't deny it.
I was waiting to see if Jim was going to wear a watch in here today, and if it was the one out of the book.
Oh, yeah, the Rolex?
Yep. I was waiting for it.
That's an expensive watch to walk around with.
Right.
Did you not read that part?
Especially in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not a watch. I'm not a watch wearer. But what I say this is it's a fictional, abstract, autobiographical thriller. Yep. So it's up to, when I say abstract, I mean, and I say it in the preface, it's like cubism. You know what you're looking at. You're picking up this disparate parts.
Relay like the Da Vinci Code kind of thing.
That's huge praise, because I think Dan Brown, his Da Vinci Code. I didn't realize Angels and Demons came out before Da Vinci Code. I learned that the other day.
Oh,
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
actually.
No, it was quite interesting. Didn't do well, so he bought back the rights apparently.
Jeez.
And then, I mean, can you imagine?
Oh yeah.
It's like Dan Brown's books, and then
Wow.
went to a different publisher, and that's
When it took off.
We
Yeah.
have Dan Brown.
Right.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code. And that's, I mean, you've had that praise. You're on the Canadian bestsellers list. Walking in here, you told us that the algorithm.
Yeah. For the New York Times algorithm is skewed. Let's just say it's.
You're
not
in friendly company here
yeah,
because we also get
Well,
shouted
I
at.
realize that, but we're talking to a billion people. That
Right,
maybe they're
right.
not.
Yep, right.
But let's just say it's not a meritocracy. How do you say that word? Meritocracy.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, you were asking me earlier. You're really smart or not? Anyway,
That's funny.
It's not based on merit that you end up on the New York Times bestseller list. Call Me Hunter outsold some of the books that are on that list right now. It should have been on this week.
Right. Absolutely.
But there's an algorithm that they use that, depending on the
Name.
lots of things.
Yeah.
Call
A lot
Me
of things.
Hunter.
Right.
It's not
Your background.
Because we run into that with Blueline Bowhunters a lot too. The algorithms just don't like us.
They hate us.
Yeah. So, but it's
Yeah,
one of those things.
It is, and that's because we've let it happen in our
Exactly.
world. We've let other people control the messaging, and when you let other people control the messaging,
Yep.
all through history, what you end up is their message.
Right.
And their message doesn't necessarily resonate with the majority, but the more power they get,
Yep.
the more the majority has to say, okay, whatever, we'll just go along with it.
Right.
Right.
And then it becomes the new norm. And
Well,
it's just
it does but remember, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So
Right.
there comes a point where,
the tipping point.
it comes a tipping point where people just say, okay, enough of that. And then they, let's have a little bit more common sense in this world. And
Right.
it'll come.
I think it's
just
coming.
The Inquisition eventually ended.
Exactly.
And that kind of brings me to my next point of, Nyala, who's the main character in this book, is a journalist. And typically right now in the United States, we associate journalism with something left-leaning. But I like the fact that she is actually a conservative-leaning, and the humor you have in this book, I laughed out loud a couple times when you talk about the political correctness of not calling something a short, stubby bottle. I think your funny character in the book is it Luba?
Luba, yeah.
And her complaining that she can't supersize at McDonald's anymore. And I really like those little nods of it's refreshing to read that because, I mean, I'm not a McDonald's guy, but I'm like, yeah, why can't you get what you want anymore?
Right.
Because they don't feel we have the brains to handle that privilege.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so they take it away. I mean, the underlying theme to this whole book is I flipped the stereotypes.
Right.
Right.
I flipped them and flipped them and flipped them and flipped them. I mean, people think it's a big, tough, toxic masculinity character that's the protagonist. It's not.
Yep.
It's a young lady with views like a
Right.
toxic masculine guy.
Yeah.
So and that's out there.
There is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was quite interesting. I was reading some of the early reviews from the ARC's advanced reader copies, and one reviewer gave it a 0, instead of a 5, and they said they read up to the point where a fictional character in a book that they haven't even read the whole book yet, so they don't really know what happens. Or
Exactly. Yeah, right.
the fictional character, a young lady, Nyala, says about Scott, one of her workmates, that he was an insipid, gender-confused millennial with a man bun.
Right.
And this reviewer said, when I read that, I will never read this garbage, crap.
Right.
It's a fictional character talking about another fictional character.
Yep.
And the reviewer wouldn't read beyond that. It's like, are you kidding me? You don't
Yeah.
even know what Nyala eventually thinks of
Probably
Scott.
just painted a picture of himself in the mirror, but he just read it in the book, right?
Well, there's
Yeah.
possibly
Exactly. Yep.
he might have related to the wrong character in that case. But
Yep.
and but the thing is, I know as the author, and remember, I flipped the stereotypes, and I believe right now in this world we need more tolerance. So there is Nyala, the character, being intolerant of Scott, the insipid millennial.
Mm-hmm.
But I know where it goes, and this is just a hint,
Yep.
because I've got to write a sequel. Now, I've known the story because it's my story, and I've always seen it as a 3-book series. So, and I've signed a 2-book contract, so I've got to write a sequel.
There we go. Yep.
I'm sure
Well, that takes care of my last question.
Yeah, I already answered it, did I? Yeah. But
Because you left it kind of on a little cliffhanger.
Oh, no, not as much as I had it. I had it as, I don't know if you remember the part with Niala screaming by the bale fires.
Yes.
That's where I ended it. That was my first book because I knew the first 4 chapters of the second book.
Like, God,
I was going to answer all the questions I left, like truly cliffhangers in the first book. But Emily Bessler, she's the rock star of editing in New York City, Atria Books. When she read it, and she's discovered most of the modern best-selling authors, she personally chose this book. She loved it and said, I want to edit it myself. And she called me up and she said, okay, I just read it. And she said, you're not going to leave it like that. You can't. He said, when you have 10 bestsellers, when you're Stephen King,
right,
Patterson, you can do it. But she said, you are a first-time author. You'll get lynched. And she said, you have to wrap up the loose ends. So I wrote the first 4 chapters of the second book and tacked them onto the back of Call Me Hunter to be able to wrap it up. But I still, you can't tell my story. I can't tell my story in one book. So yeah, I have to sit down and be disciplined again in my life. It's been a rough last 2 years, so I haven't had a chance to.
Well, hopefully we don't have another COVID lockdown.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a lockdown that they could keep people in anymore.
No,
that's
I
one
think
of those things.
Yeah, that was a shot across our bow, and nature takes care of overpopulation.
Yep,
it's a sad thing, but that was not nature. when nature hits us, it'll be a totally different deal, and it won't be lockdown. We will all know what to do at that point.
Right,
and,
absolutely.
And yeah, I feel sorry for the urban people.
Yep, exactly.
I do too. I wanted to go through a little bit just for people who haven't read the book, because hopefully through this that people actually, they want to go out and buy the book then and read it. Just for like comparison's sake. So throughout the book, it's there's several comparisons. I mean, Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code. I don't know if you know this story or not, but the Never-Ending Story. Do you know that one? It had like the white dragon in it.
Yeah, isn't that a kid's story?
It is, but he's reading a story and ends up being in the story. And I think that's a comparison. And then this is a movie, but John Wick, because it's like the society of killers. If they don't get what they want, they take it by any means. And then kind of at the end, it becomes the Punisher.
Right.
Which I've watched the John Wick movies, and a Never-Ending Story. It seems to me I watched those
probably with
way long time ago.
Probably with your kids.
I think when I was a kid, that movie scared the shit out of me. Yeah,
it did me a little bit too. I mean, the dragon's pretty. I think it's a white dragon, and it's scary. But I just remember at the end of it, like he finds out, like, oh my gosh, this book. They're calling me. They're saying it's me.
Talking to me, yeah.
Yep.
And that's what Nyala finds out at the end, is that it's, well, not at the end, but getting towards the end, she's like, this is me.
Yeah.
We don't want to give it all away, but
right.
But yeah, that's the whole premise of the book. She receives a manuscript in the mail.
Yeah.
That has no address on it, just her name on it, and no return address, just the name Sisu.
Right.
And that's. And she starts reading it, and that's where she reads the first line: "Zhivago is dead. I hunted him down, and he will never hurt you."
Yep.
Okay, so what? But then she starts. Then when that second person perspective, that whoever wrote the manuscript actually addresses it to her, Nyalo, that's when she realizes right at the start that this is something's, and she doesn't know who she is.
Right.
She was found on the steps of a police station,
and she
wrapped in a mountain goat wool blanket,
right,
with a little note. Her name is Nyala. So it's she's on a voyage of her own discovery,
right.
Which brings in the Soul Catcher, the greatest work of art created by mankind or humankind, personkind, whatever the proper person that is sung.
Right. Yep.
I don't know how you us. But that's U.S. Maybe people don't like that. I mean, it's just bizarre.
Yep.
But the greatest work of art created by mankind is the Soul Catcher. Does it exist? Is it real? What could it possibly be? And that's what this organization, Our World, has been seeking for hundreds of years.
Right.
And using these young children that are born with this innate ability to recognize beauty. And people say, is that true? Say, well, look, there's 8 billion of us in this world. And I know from our museum, when there's people that are really switched on, really tuned in to spirituality, doesn't matter, what their religion, what they adhere to, what their faith is, when they walk down the main hallway and there's all these handmade, artifacts, and they're from Christianity, from Buddhism, from Hinduism, Muslim pieces, Islam. There's animism, there's paganism. I mean, it's all down this hallway. And when they walk down,
you can tell that they feel
they're in tears.
Yeah.
They don't make it halfway down, and they're legit. Like they sense something that you and I might have, touches of it.
Right.
But these people are just way more switched on to that, and they're almost shaking there because of the spirits of every single person that created this work of art, whatever it is, a mask, for whatever reason they created, whether it was ceremonial or whether it was just out of love for their soulmate.
Yep.
The spirit of those people exists in that work of art. And that's all that's left of them in this world.
Right.
Now they're walking by it, and these people are speaking to them. So back to what I was saying, 8 billion people in this world.
Yep.
Are there 2 that have the ability to recognize, beauty in a way that you and I, cannot recognize it, feel
comprehend,
sense it, and that's Icarus, Hunter. His ability, everything's brown and brown until
he sees color.
Till he sees color, then he knows this is a masterpiece of some special, for whatever reason.
Whether it's a plate or a watch,
right?
Doesn't matter. Yeah,
doesn't matter.
That's where it starts. And to be fair, he couldn't read when he was in grade 3. The teachers, and they took him to the psychiatrist.
It's
and
just
said,
uninteresting to
he just was bored. And many people listening to this, because those of us that love the outdoors.
I was that kid looking out the window. I'm like, there's the butterfly. Right.
Hey, I'll tell you a story about another kid who was grade 3 and couldn't read. And the teacher, Mrs. Miller, called his parents and said, "You got to take him to a psychiatrist. Something's wrong with this kid." And Mrs. Miller, by the way, and I have been in conversation recently after all this time. So my parents took me to a psychiatrist to say, "What's wrong with this kid?"
Right.
He doesn't read, and they did a IQ test, and read the book. So
that kid ended up writing a novel.
Right.
Eventually, yeah. I mean, it started at 10, because by the time that kid was 10 years old, he could read. I was reading J.A. Hunter 3 times the 1 year in grade 5, and spent more time in detention reading J.A. Hunter because I was reading J.A. Hunter that I got detention. But I started my first novel when I was 10.
Yeah.
And got about, 8 pages in, and it was awful. I had no story to tell.
Right.
I knew how to read, but that doesn't mean you can tell a story.
You had to wait to live
your
life.
You have to hone the skill. Like it's a skill. It's a craft. You have to hone it. I wrote 1,000 articles for magazines back in the day, and that was honing that craft. And then I went back to the novel, because I wanted to live first and then have a story to tell, as opposed to go to university and then try and imagine a story and then have enough money to live. No, I wanted to live, and then I have a story to tell. So 1997, I sat down. I thought it was 93, but it's 97. And I penned the first words of Call Me Hunter. Javette was dead. I hunted him down and I killed him. I wrote that first page, so I knew the story. And I sat at the first chapter, at whatever word processor I was using at the time. And when I was honest with myself, I realized I still hadn't lived enough life. My story wasn't interesting enough.
Right.
So I had to continue living. So it was another, 25 years before I picked up those same lines. Javago was dead. I hunted him down and I killed him in November 2019.
So you wrote that first page 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the story was there, but it wasn't. It just wasn't as interesting as it was going to be if I lived another 25 years. And 306 days a year on the road for 20 years of that, and over 200 days a year before that, I was living. And then 2019 November, I had a story to tell, and that's Call Me Hunter.
That's incredible.
And you were into sports when you were younger too, right?
Yeah. I was a All-American swimmer, and then switched over to the on scholarship in university, and then switched over to our Canadian national water polo team. Basically walked on because I was so sick and tired of going up and down a pool.
Right, back and forth.
Yeah, and I played water polo in the summer league in Saskatoon. Yeah, before I went off to university. So I had good hands and I had good ball sense, and I was small for water polo, but but I was mean as heck.
Yeah.
And I had a chip
You made
on my
up for
shoulder.
it in tenacity.
Oh yeah. So I had when I joined the team, I had a Fu Manchu and an earring in one ear and big long hair, and I was just a bad actor. I mean, first practice, I pounded a guy. He never came back to play water polo after that. So funny. No, I was bad. I was mean. I apologize to all you guys out there that went on to become, I don't know, art directors or whatever.
Art directors.
Another thing in this book that I found to be like just really cool was just the amount of detail and describing that you did, and I really assimilated to whenever Hunter's mother goes to see the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And sitting there, because I know I've been there, sitting in a doctor's office as the light comes through the window and you see the dust particles just in the air. Yeah. I'm like, man, I've been there. I've seen that. And I was right there, Yeah. And you do that throughout the entire book. Is that just something that you think you've always picked up on, or is it something you think maybe through the hunting world? I feel like hunters appreciate the details a little bit more.
We're tuned into those kind of things. My writing is very cinematic. Because I produce television shows and I tell stories with visuals, and I know, after all this time, you can tell us again back to Churchill. You can tell a story in an hour,
right?
But we don't have an hour to tell this story, so we've got to pare it down until we get the essence of the story,
right?
So you can describe a room, but there's a point where it's too much.
Yeah.
So what do you describe? You describe the most poignant feature of that room, and if it's dust coming through the shaft of the window, and
I think it's something that everybody notices. That it's like you're painting literally the picture in words for somebody that, like you said, it's a cinematic scene, and people with those types of minds that see light in those certain areas and the way the words flow in that story, like you can piece those pieces of the puzzle together in your mind and actually see as if you're watching it on a movie screen.
Yeah, and I don't need to write more because you've already got the picture.
Right.
And the wind. I mean, we know wind.
Yep.
If you're a hunter, you're in the outdoors.
You're already imagining it.
Yeah, you would notice. If someone moves their hand, that the wind floats.
Yep.
How does the wind affect us sitting on a deer stand if it's coming over a hill and around a corner?
Right.
Where, it swirls.
You see the leaves kick up.
Sure. And we notice those things.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm hoping also that it's not just us.
Yeah.
Because my intent on this book is not to read, the vertical market that's already there. I could have self-published.
Yeah.
The self-publishing would have been easier. I made a pile more money. Because then I'm making $20 a book instead of $1.50.
Right.
And so far it's worked out to $1.50 an hour for this whole process. So
Right.
It's not. I didn't write this for money. And we're giving all our money away. Louisa and I already started a society to give land, building contents of our museum, which is a big, expensive place, and an endowment to cover expenses for 40 years. So it'll always be donation only, which it is now.
That's amazing.
So I'm just going to give it away anyway. Right. That's not the point. I wrote the book to reach outside of our world, and I don't mean our world the organization.
I hear our world now.
Yeah, I know. Well, just wait. That's the third book. But I wrote it to reach the non-hunters.
Right. Bridging the gap there.
Bridging the gap.
Right.
And again, it's to create tolerance, to create dialogue.
Yeah.
If you don't play in their world, it's one thing we sit on our side and you sit on our side and we throw rocks at each other.
Exactly.
But okay, let's go over on your side and let's just try and understand, why are you throwing rocks at me?
Yeah.
I have a family. I had a loving spouse, soulmate for 39 years, two beautiful children that are married to their soulmates. I have 4 grandchildren. I have a dog. I love them. I don't kick them. Why do you hate me? Why are you throwing rocks at me?
Right.
And that's if they'd come to our side, but they won't.
Yeah.
So far they haven't.
Comes down to the tolerance side of things as well.
Yeah, tolerance, which we need more in the world. So I felt, okay, what do they respect? They a novelist in this world today is a fairly respected profession. I mean,
absolutely.
They're held in high esteem, probably more by that side that has that not a point of view that maybe we might have on a given a different opinion. So I felt, okay, let's go into their world and let's write a book that it's literary. They can't deny that the book is well written. Right. That it's a good story. They can hate it, like the reviewer that wouldn't read past that line. Right. They can still hate it.
It's just hating something for just being an object or what it is.
It's because it creates cognitive dissonance in their ideology.
Right.
So they're living by an ideology. So, and I say it in here, they build walls around themselves to keep their ideas in and all other ideas out.
Whether right or wrong, they just don't allow it to come in.
They can't, because you can't. Ideologies are the greatest vice that we have in this world today. It should be one of the deadly sins.
Right.
And I've said this before, get rid of gluttony. That's just, good marketing by fast food places. That shouldn't be
the supersize me.
It shouldn't be a deadly vice. But they should have virtue signaling should be one, and ideologies should be the second, added on to their.
And while we were on this subject of bridging that gap, you did something different too. Instead of going to bookstores to have your signings, you're doing that in a Cabela's.
Again, this is a crossover, because the bookstores, that's the bastion of sort of the other side. I mean, let's face it, it is nowadays. And I, my purpose on this is for this book to act as a catalyst to create dialogue between this side and this side, opposing views, and say, oh, okay, well, maybe there is something there. And so tell me the story. Let's, because most people, 80% of the people, 10% you'll never reach.
Right.
10% are already us.
Exactly.
The 80% in the middle, they'll go this way or this way. And they want to know the truth.
Right.
Most people would like to know the truth. And depending on what they've read recently, that's the way they're leaning that week.
Yep.
So the purpose of this is to reach in and hopefully begin a dialogue, or allow a dialogue, act as a catalyst to create a dialogue. So if it does well, if every hunter out there that's listening to this goes and buys 10 copies for their mother, wasn't it the Rolling Stones song, the 5-Man Electrical Band? You guys are too young. But if everybody does, the book then becomes a bestseller regardless of their algorithms. Now they have to give me airtime to talk about who we are as hunters.
Exactly.
What our lifestyle. It's not about killing an animal. That's a tiny, Ortega de Gasset, the Spanish philosopher, said, I don't hunt to kill. I kill to have hunted.
Right.
And it's a huge difference. And once you give me a voice, if they allow me, and maybe it won't be me, maybe it'll be someone else, but it's going to crack open the door to allow more books, because it made money for the publishers.
Right.
And they realize there is an army of us out there. Right. Maybe that's not a correct term to use nowadays either, but there's a lot. There's a lot of
absolutely.
us that we're tired of being spoon-fed. You can't have supersize. I like supersize. I like it. And because someone else doesn't have the discipline to not order supersize 20 times a day.
Still want it. Right.
I would like it to be my choice, not legislated out of existence.
Right.
Although it's probably was, I think, the corporate headquarters of McDonald's at Cave, which again, Luba, in the book points out very clearly. So the purpose of this book isn't just, certainly not to make money, but it was to go play by their rules. And there, I just mean people that control the distribution of the messaging.
Yeah,
play by their rules and say, let's create something you can't ignore.
Exactly. Yes.
And now
let's open up a dialogue then.
And that starts a dialogue, which we need in this world. It's just become a world of intolerance. Or people think they're so tolerant until they hear a point of view that's opposite of theirs, and cancel that person because that's not tolerance.
Right.
We all know what's right or wrong. Every one of us knows inherently. Don't kill somebody. Someone's child's hurt, lost, help them out. Right. We all know what's right and wrong. After that, right and wrong becomes a cultural perspective. How you were raised, where you were raised, what your parents believed. And smart people believe this, smart people believe that. And that doesn't make either one of them wrong. And that's what I've learned in my travels. And that's
your socialization has a great deal on how you think and feel about stuff, especially how your upbringing. And within your culture, your political socialization. I mean, both my parents were conservative, and they put their views on me, and now I have those same views, but I'm able to still talk to somebody that has the similar views from me.
You're open,
I'm open to the conversation, absolutely.
Yeah, just a quick story on that. My father was an avowed socialist. My sister, who's a librarian, socialist. And then there's me, who, I've seen both sides. I was a young NDP, New Democratic Party member until I saw what they did gerrymandering borders after they'd won the last election, accusing the other party of gerrymandering borders. Right. And I actually took Tommy Douglas to task. And anyone that's Canadian listening to this will know who I'm talking about, the founder of the CCF. party in Canada that became the NDP party. Smart, brilliant man. And there was a round table or whatever, a forum. You were allowed to ask questions. And I remember standing up in high school. I was really upset because I was living a lie.
Right.
You did exactly the same thing that you accused the other party of. That's wrong. You stand for something, you don't stand for something. So, yeah, I took Tommy Douglas to task, which pretty well made me a black sheep in our family. But yeah, you don't have to, just because your parents were a certain way, if you look at the world with open eyes and with tolerance and acceptance of other points of views and go into every situation objectively, not with subjective opinions already, then you can learn. I mean, I've learned more in my travels just by being open-minded.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And that's what I'm hoping that...
there's two sides to every story. And
of course there is. Of course there is.
Where, and I think I might know the answer to this, but I'm just interested to hear your side of it. You have a lot of professional accomplishments. Where does this book fall?
It's funny. I don't... someone asked me earlier what I did yesterday, or I was.
My dad did, yeah.
Podcast. What have I done for myself lately?
Yeah.
So I don't even really consider this an accomplishment yet because I haven't accomplished what I set out to do. Yes, I got it published and I went through the channels, and it's a really onerous and difficult and highly vetted task. You have to have a quality product,
but it's just one piece of the project, and your whole life is the project.
That's exactly right. The past. I mean, I can cite them. I can tell you what I've done, and I mean, it's kind of cool. I wrote a song in 2018, recorded it and released it, and it went to #1 on the iTunes Blues charts. And if you read the book,
it's in there.
Yeah, but that
whenever Jim works is
howl with me. You can go to Spotify or ask Siri or Alexa or whatever, they'll play it. And it went to #1 on the iTunes Blues charts. Now, it's kind of a lark for me, just to say, okay, I want to see, is it really that hard to do this?
Yeah.
And again, serving in our Canadian military, it was a rank bestowed upon me. It's a huge honor. They've done it like 200 times. It takes an order in council in our federal parliament, and the Minister of Defense has to sign off on it to bestow a rank on somebody. At that level. I mean, any level, but it's so I did 6 years out. That's with wearing the uniform, and with the Rangers. 4 Canadian Ranger Patrol Group was my group, and it.
I mean, it's all coming back, and
I know.
Like, this is crazy.
Well, that's why I say this is it's an autobiographical.
Everything you just said is actually in the book,
right?
Yeah.
And the character, I think, at the time, probably you learned that whenever it's Icarus.
Yeah.
You learned that throughout the book. That's incredible. A fun question for you.
Sure.
Maybe you don't want to look this far ahead, but who plays grown-up Hunter or Icarus in the movie?
Everybody asked me that.
Really?
And Jack Carr, for his Terminalist, he knew he wanted Chris Pratt right from the very beginning.
Right.
I was actually with him when he got the call from Chris Pratt on Terminalist.
That's awesome.
Got the cell phone call. He says, Chris Pratt. And Chris told him right then that he wanted to option Terminalist to make it into a Prime or what Amazon series.
Oh, yeah. I watched that. That was an incredible.
Yeah, it was a great series. Yeah. But Jack knew who he wanted to play the part. To play Icarus, Sisu, the Man of Swords, to play Hunter, I mean, it's got to have to. You're not just going to be a Hollywood actor. It's going to have to be someone that's, again, walk the walk.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's got to be you.
Have you seen my? Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Jim. Have you seen my acting ability?
That's funny.
But it doesn't. It won't take an actor. It'll take someone who's lived life. And that's why I thought about it. Kevin Costner, somebody who was the other day one of the bald ones or something. Who's that? The guy that kind of looks. We kind of look the same. He's a bunch of brothers. He's not a bald one. Who's he?
Bunch of brothers.
He
We're looking in the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody help me on this one? Anyway, I should know him because I've been told I look like him.
Who's that?
He said he looks like me. I'm like,
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Oh, wow. High praise from Leslie.
Yeah. Ooh.
Tom Cruise. Wow.
Yep.
He's like this tall.
Maybe like a Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, how many stunts are going to be in the movie? Because that'll be Cruise's special thing there.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you got to give the guy credit.
He's one of my favorite actors when it comes to that. Exactly.
Look at the longevity and what he's created. But he is not Icarus, man of swords.
Right.
You know, you need a man of swords.
It's gonna have to be a guy that can wear cowboy boots and have a cowboy hat.
Does Donnie have cowboy boots?
No.
I don't know.
Kevin Costner. I mean, you know, he's
Costner. Ooh, that's a good one.
I love Waterworld even.
Yeah. Costner's a good one.
Yeah,
I like all his.
You know,
the Hatfield McCoys, and that was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, he's you know,
Yellowstone.
possibly, but again, I just haven't thought about it because the Hollywood thing is.
We got to get that in his hands first, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's again.
I'll call him after this.
You know, Rip's
Cole
Hauser.
Hauser.
He gave a blurb on it. You know, so
did he?
Oh yeah, it's in his hands for sure. It's in his
great.
hands. So you know, I'm sure it's one step away, but Hollywood's Hollywood. You know,
Right.
Well, speaking of Hollywood, I mean, Goldie Hawn's in this book.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
I mean,
Goldie Hawn is she's a cutie. I'll tell you a quick story. I probably shouldn't, but I will. When we were going out, Louise and I, you know, and I was really trying to marry her within an hour of meeting her, and she took a little bit longer time to she was doing a movie with who's the guy, mustache?
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, yeah.
Yeah, and Tom kept asking her out, and she had her trailer with a star on it, and so she phoned me up one day and she said, you know, I had my little antique store at the time dealing in ethnocentric art, and she said, well, you know, he keeps asking me, would you mind if I went for lunch with him? And you know, me being, you know, set them free. If they come back, they're yours. If they're not, so I said, yeah, of course, go on. You know, and I hung up. And this was at the height of Magnum PI.
Right.
The guy was like the sexiest god from Hollywood ever. And I hung up and I thought about it for about 10 seconds. I said, what am I doing? Just like Dumb and Dumber. And
it's that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's that way. And I said, you know, just thinking about it, what if the most gorgeous sex symbol in the world asked me out? You know, how would you feel? And I went, and she said, yeah, you're right. So she gonged Tom Selleck. True story. Eva still to this day is so angry. She said she could have a bedroom with a slide out into the swimming pool in Hollywood.
That's funny.
And but then to finish off the story, we had our son Branlin, and he was about 18 months old. And Goldie Hawn was a customer of mine in my store. And she came in, and she asked me out for lunch. She said, and I went just like that. And said, yeah. And I, later on that evening, I got home. Oh, guess who I had lunch with? You know, Goldie Hawn and Louise to the very end. Just said, you son of a gun.
Yeah.
I turned down Tom Selleck and he went up with Goldie Hawn. But I mean, hilarious. It was just a lunch. It was professional. She and I say in the book she has a cute giggle. She truly did and does. And I told Eva, because Eva has the same little
giggle.
Yeah, giggle. And I told Eva when she first started, I said, you know, that's your calling card. That's who you are. You can make people smile with just that. And I say in the book that Goldie Hawn is a cute giggle, and Kurt Russell is a hunter. He is, you know, or was.
That's awesome.
I can't speak for it now.
That is so cool. Right.
That's incredible.
He also, you know, came in the store.
You've lived like 18 lives.
Well, you know,
there's so much more we're going to have to dive into. Yeah, right.
Well, but I say dig into everyone.
Right.
Ask them. You know, they can't deny it. The Lonnie Anderson, Stephanie Zimlis, and Michelle Lee, which you guys are too young to remember them, but they were the hot girls in 1980s. And the cinematographer Laszlo George, you know, the character Icarus is in a lunch with them, and there's the most beautiful woman in the world that he's ever seen. Now remember, he feels beauty,
color,
and color. And there's a lady in the same lunch that and Joan of Arc was looking from the outside in at this lunch. I had a fellow that called me out, an interviewer, and he said, "Yeah, okay, I dug." And you know, Lonnie Anderson, come on, you know, like, what am I going to do? Ask her. And I said, "Did you dig hard enough?"
Right.
You know, like, and so I said, "Go Google Tale for Three Wives." Tale for Three Wives, I think it is, something like that. 1984, and you'll find those three actresses, and you'll find Laszlo George was. And if you go down the list of characters and the actors that played the parts, there's Louise Johann. Well, Louise, my soulmate of 39 years, her maiden name was Johann. She was in the movie, and she was in the lunch, and I was in the lunch. Icarus was in the lunch. And so it's all true. They can't deny it. Well, Laszlo George can't because he's passed away. And he's a Hungarian, and we did talk water polo. Dig, please.
Right. Oh, wow.
Dig.
It is an autobiography.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Or is it?
We don't know.
Yep.
Before we finish up here with us being the Blueline Bowhunters, we got to ask you, where's the next hunt at?
As soon as I've done the book tour, I've just heard as soon as I've done the book tour, I have to fly back down to Phoenix to sign books. When I was there, it was pretty funny. Jack Carr was there. I was there, 10 days ago, something like that. He had 1,800 books to sign, and I had 300. And I mean, besides the fact that my nose got out of joint and I was jelly. Am I allowed to say jelly on this podcast?
Yep.
Yeah,
jealous.
sure.
Say whatever you want.
And I felt, 300. That's not.
That's
not enough. To sign
1,800.
books, because I know how many people want signed books, signed Call Me Hunters, and so we did a little post on it, and next morning within 2 hours they were sold out. So I had to, sold out on the post, and that's happened over and over on all these stops.
Right.
But I just found out I have to go back, fly all the way back down to Phoenix to sign 1,000 books, and I know already for a fact that 300 are gone. Wow. So I just that's what I was doing when you guys before this podcast. I did a little video and I said, listen, go there now to what are they? poisonedpen.com. And they'll ship anywhere in the world. They're about the only bookstore. I've been trying to figure out how to do this because
to get copies out.
Yeah, to get copies out. I mean, I'm traveling with carry-on. I don't have any copies. I can't dedicate something unless they come to an appearance. Well, I can only do so many places. Right. So to get signed copies, how do you do it?
No, I'm sure.
Poisonpen.com. Now, if everybody's listening to this right now, go, there. But I'll have to fly back down there.
Poisonpen.com.
Poisonpen.com, Ben. But back to your question. So after I do that, I'll come back up to our ranch in Saskatchewan. I've hunted there for 40 years. I have to get drawn on our own ranch now.
Oh, wow.
But I know it's absurd. Again, protectionism. But I got drawn on our ranch in Saskatchewan for whitetails 2 years in a row, which is, I thought I'd be 90 before I got drawn.
Unheard of, yeah. Right.
So I'll go back. The only problem is all my big deer got killed last year. I got one of them, and the other real big one, a fellow got it. Right?
Oh, yeah?
But, yeah. Anyway, that's an irritating story. But there's one.
We can go into it if you want.
Yeah, no. Well, it's just, our land's big, and this fellow would sit right on the corner.
Oh, we know all about that.
Inside corner with solid bush around him, and the only place you can look out is into my land, our land, our ranch land, and whatever. I wasn't there, so I'm sure the buck walked 10 feet from on that side, but he got it. So and this is welcome to being a hunter. Yeah. We are the most jealous, envious crowd that. Like the guy probably just, tracked it down and like Super Hunter and got it, and here I am denigrating his accomplishment. So I take that. I apologize. That's terrible. I try and be positive.
That's what do we say? Hunters are our own worst enemies.
Oh yeah.
We are, every single one of us.
We need to band together, but we're so terrible at pulling each other apart.
Yeah, I just did. How pathetic is that? I'm talking about tolerance, and here I am.
We catch ourselves.
I know. I'm a jellyfish. I I don't stand for anything.
That's funny.
But I'll head out there, and there's a huge 4x4. I mean, he was 162 last year with 16-inch inside spread, and we have the sheds.
Heavy.
He's heavy. He's a 5x4 this year, and he's still there. And he's 7.5. So I've known that buck. So I'll go try and get him, and then probably the next hunt I'll do will be in the spring on our Pacific Rim outfitting territory in Vancouver Island and the Yukon next year. International travel, 2018 October, Mozambique was my last international trip.
Oh, wow.
And I determined that in 2016 because I was booked out 3 years in advance to set up those expeditions. So I just had done it enough, and I needed to write the novel. So a month later.
You had a little bit of knee trouble too, right?
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. and it was probably stress. I mean, our family's gone through a lot of stress this last 2 years.
Right.
And I probably was carrying a latent virus from some bug I picked up, or it was.
But you didn't have to have surgery on your knee or nothing like that?
No. Well, I did, yes. I had, orthoscopy.
Okay, yeah.
But then that wasn't it. It was, maybe the trauma triggered it and the stress, but some kind of a weird autoimmune, arthritis. I could not lift up this cup of coffee. To get out of this chair would take me 20 minutes, and I would be in agony. Never been in such pain in my life. Whole body just pain.
Almost like Lyme's.
Like Lyme's. But it's like that. But this is probably I picked up in Africa somewhere.
Right.
Something they couldn't identify because it wasn't Lyme's. But it was like the same.
The joint and tendon and the pain and stiffness.
There's a CRP. Doctors will know, but it measures inflammation.
Right.
And the number should be 4. 5 is high, and if you hit 100, you're incapacitated.
Right.
I was 137.
Holy!
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and inflammation isn't. It's funny. I thought that's swelling. It's not. It's inflammation. It's something that causes pain.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
I didn't know that
the
either.
doctor when he did the blood test. I mean, I'm sitting there. I couldn't even move. I posted a video. We tell the truth on our social media.
I remember seeing it
I do
somewhere
too.
about the
I should actually revisit it because it's been a year since I posted that.
And what happened coming out of that?
It took months and months and months, but almost a year. I couldn't swing a golf club for 14 months. They stuck me on prednisone, which is a horrible devil's candy. Worked great. It got me walking within 48 hours again. And but feeling just.
But you have to get
weird.
off of it at some point.
You can't.
You can't stay on it forever.
It's killing you. So I tried to get out. I'm doctor says a week. So was it you that posted, Leslie, about a week? Where did I just see that, something about a week? Oh, maybe it wasn't you. But anyway, if doctor says it'll take a week, and then you go and push way too hard before that because So I tried to get off prednisone on my own, and I relapsed. I got hit hard.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So doctor's orders it, and it took.
Stay on and then wean off.
It was like 8 months, and they said I couldn't be on it for 2 years. And you're killing yourself doing it.
Right.
But I gritted my teeth, and then they also stuck me on some kind of biologic infusion I have to do every 2 months.
That's a lot of things with like today's medical field and the medicine and the man-made stuff that's out there. Kind of like when we want to. We all need to get away from it at some point and do more of the natural side of things and physical, like the therapies and getting out and
it's field to table living, and that doesn't mean urban living. I mean, we're in this room right now. Think there's not varnish, with fixatives,
everything around us.
Yeah, on this, like we're breathing it, and plastics. This table, I don't know.
We were made to be outside, experiencing wild things and wild places.
Yeah, of course we were. Yeah. But we also like convenience.
Right.
It's not dripping on us right now, and we're kind of warm, and we have all these lights. We couldn't do this outside. Right. So we've sacrificed longevity and quality of life in our later years for convenience when we're younger.
The creature comfort.
The creature comfort. I was just going to say comfort. Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd be willing to walk away from my cell phone.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that is making all kinds of brain waves and addling me. And my grandmother lived to 99. My other grandmother 98.
Right.
I'm hoping to make it to 80. God willing. And look at Louise, 66, perfect health and gone.
Right.
So we none of us are getting a free ticket for ever. So we're all going to get a ticket to get out, cash it in at some point. And I think we've lived a lifestyle that. It has not been conducive to longevity. So it's, but again, who wants to give up? Look at him drinking plastic.
Our coffees,
Yeah, serious. I mean, we can't get away from it. So,
right.
So, it's one thing to
you do the best you can.
You do the best you can. And the more time you can spend outside in fresh air.
Yep. And moving.
Yeah, moving, exercise, and living a quality of life that is rural as opposed to urban.
And I've always preached like experiences, and experiencing like wild places and stuff like that, and just getting outside and enjoying nature, enjoying outdoors, enjoying hunting, fishing, camping, anything to do in that aspect that helps your mental and physical self, like everything. I know Leslie and Troy are here with us today. They're helping out behind the camera. They have Heroes Outdoor Therapy, and it's just one of those things. It's just like it betters you in a way of just getting outside and anything that we do, this lifestyle.
And just like you said, like you might not have the greatest buck or a buck that you've been used to in the past to go after, but you're still going to be hunting and you're going to be enjoying it and you're going to be in the outdoors. And
I'm going to love it.
I'm sure after everything you've been through, Jim, and the book tour, you're going to need that mental tree therapy.
Yeah, and I need to live on hot dogs and cans of beans again, right?
Yep.
That's what I'll live on the whole time I'm there. And
Man, I watched one episode of you. I don't remember exactly what it was. I don't know if it was like the Turkish people, and you were over. Like the roads were so narrow, like you could almost fall off the cliff. Like if you made one mistake, and yet they were making bread in like one of the mud huts that they had built, and you were hunting goat there or sheep, and like just being in that situation and like experiencing the locals, the way they do things, and making the food the way they did, and the bread, and like that whole thing of getting to that location. Number one was like the hardest thing that you could possibly imagine a human getting back there. Number one, but those locals do that like every day. Like that's their job
that's how they
guide people to hunt those animals.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it was Pakistan. Maybe
it might have been Pakistan.
Up the Karakoram highway.
Yes.
Yeah, just past the Swat Valley. I mean, it was.
I'm not too up on global things, but it's like one of those.
But it could have. It sounds like it was there because it was. Yeah, it was quite a 2-day hike.
Yes.
Just to get back into the mountains, and then you start getting into the serious cliffs.
Right.
Like it was technical climbing.
Right.
Ropes the whole bit just to get it. It was Markhor. Yeah, Kashmir Markhor. So that amazing. And then you realize how unworthy you are too when you see these guys scampering around those cliffs like
nothing.
Coming right back down to help me get a handhold. And they're in like running shoes.
Yeah, and this is like sheer cliff face, like shale.
They are mountain goats.
I wish it was shale because shale I could slide down.
Yeah, this
no, these were
like
were
razor
granite
blades. Yeah.
I mean it's the Karakoram range. They're the Palmyras, the Himalayas. Those are rough mountain ranges.
Right.
And I've hunted all of them, and I've been humbled every single time by the villagers wherever I am. And I've always wanted to embed myself with them and learn what they're, how they're doing and listen to them. Listen to their stories. I'm not there to tell them my stories, my way of life. And if they're interested, I'll talk about it, if they want to ask questions. But I'm far more interested in their way of life. I already know how I live.
Right.
So, I love that. Whatever they served for dinner, whatever they wore, that was what I
part
did.
of the plan. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it was, but that chapter's over. Now the future sequels of Call Me Hunter will probably be closer to what the people are expecting, when they hear Call Me Hunter. This one had to set up the
whole,
set up the series, and then we'll start.
We're excited for it.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
Just finishing up, do you know where your book tour is going from here? You're in Wheeling, West Virginia today.
Thank you.
Cabela's.
I literally go to the airport. They I'm surprised they haven't locked me up because they say, "Where are you going to?" And I go, but don't you know? Like I don't know where I'm going. I honestly don't know.
Here, let me help
I know
you.
I fly tomorrow.
Let me help you.
All right. Yeah, Dundee, Michigan, Edmonton, Alberta, south location. I saw a lot of people were asking that.
Yeah.
And then Vancouver, British Columbia.
Right, Tawasin, yeah.
And that's November.
Okay, so
November 4th.
I'm well into this.
Oh yeah.
You're at the lights at the end of the tunnel here. It's you have four more, and then Phoenix, like you said.
And then to go back down to Phoenix. Yeah.
So, where can people find your book at, Jim?
Anywhere, Amazon. I mean, if you Google "Call Me Hunter," you can buy it at Barnes and Noble chapters.
That's what we listened to it on Audible. Or I did.
Audible.
That's what I did as well. And I mean, I suggested just because buy both because first off, I like the book because then I could see how to pronounce the names.
I'm not
so far advanced as Hunter is in this book.
Yeah.
But I would almost enjoy having the actual physical book because Matt bought it and doing both.
Yeah.
Because like I would listen to it on Audible and then follow along in the book would have been awesome for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a visual and physical learner.
To have someone reading, I read it to Louise twice out loud. So it's the Audible's good.
I like
and
that.
actually nowadays Audible is equal to hardcover copies in sales, and it'll bypass it here in the near future because we spend so much time.
It's convenience.
Yeah, sure it is.
Convenience for guys like us that are constantly on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it was convenient to listen to. That's the first one I've ever done on Audible.
Me too.
Like I said, Scott Brick, his voice inflections throughout, I think it really helped me with the story. I mean, he even tried to do like a more feminine voice at times. With
and then
like,
the Russian.
Yeah, the Russian, Luba. Like, it was just, he did a great job with it.
Yeah, that's, like I say, his only choice. For me, he was the only choice for that. And then me to do the second person.
You doing the second person was awesome because then I knew who was talking at that point, too. So
it makes sure you're your own. You know what I mean? Like you had to have been in there to make it just perfect.
That's what I thought. I mean, it's my story.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And those second person perspectives are the character Hunter, Icarus, Sisu, Man of Swords telling the story to Nyala. So I don't know who else could have done that.
So
I
cool.
got to say though that hats off to Scott Brick because when I was reading this, I mean, I can read well, I'm articulate enough, but I'd get through a whole paragraph and be happy. And I said to the engineer, like, so how does Scott Brick do? He said, well, he'll read 3 pages usually and then take a break, read 3 without a mistake. And pronouncing the places and locations,
right?
I'm going, and I know that they had to actually, dissect my Audible to put the syllables together because I couldn't even do it, and he just goes right through. I mean, I haven't heard.
I was wondering that, listening to that on Audible, I'm like, how does he read that so perfectly?
I don't know. I'm like, did he sit down for 15 hours and just read this?
Right.
Yeah, they do it. I mean, they do it fast. It's not.
I guess that's his job.
It's amazing.
He's a professional, and the shorter time he takes, the more money he makes.
Yep.
So hats off. It's a whole nother, again, talent.
Well, the book's incredible, Jim. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the sequel. No hurry.
I'm already getting people saying we don't want to wait. Wait. So it's I'll get it. I'll sit this winter and write it.
But obviously, Shock Therapy's on the Outdoor Channel right now.
Yes.
Anything else you have going on that you'd like to let our listeners know about?
I mean, we people down the States see Shock Therapy and our old shows, Uncharted Yukon, Professionals. Those are all on Hunting Adventures. Those are on reruns. Shock Therapy is our new one, but we produce up in Canada. Most people don't realize for the Aboriginal People's Television Network, APTN.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, because it only airs in Canada, and we haven't syndicated it yet. I told them, hold back. Once I get the series complete, then we'll syndicate it.
Right.
And it'll end up down the States too. But it's working with Aboriginal people. The title is Yukon Harvest, and we have a second show called Coastal Carvers that's coming out. It's based on their art. So we work really closely with Indigenous peoples up in Canada, producing television shows that they like, and they've been nominated for awards yet. We haven't won, but it's pretty political up there.
Right.
We won all the awards on the States,
right?
But in Canada, you got to pay your dues.
Right.
Yeah. So and
your son, he's a producer too, right? And what's his project right now? He's working on Brandolin.
Here's. Do you know a country and western, a fellow named Brett Kissel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Brett Kissel's won every Juno Award, which is our Canadian Country Music Awards. He's like Canada's rock star, except in country and western music. Right. He just, I know Brett, and he's just got Brandolin, our son, to open for him for 2 of his concerts.
What? Really?
Yeah. I mean,
I knew he played guitar a little bit, but I didn't know.
He plays at a whole
another level. No way.
His songwriting is and you're allowed.
Not
to
into jazz though, huh?
No.
Blues.
Blues.
Yeah.
Blues.
My song blues. His is he can do anything. But he's a world-class musician, songwriter, and singer. His voice is incredible.
Wow.
And Brett was the reason that happened was because Brett. When Louise was in the last little while, he got a hold of me and said, what kind of music does Louise like? And I said, well, she listens to her son. And He said, your son? And I said, yeah. And I sent him 2 songs, and he just came back and said, are you kidding me? And Brandlin does this stuff. He's written a novel. He's written a novel that I am unworthy on the characterization. Wow. It's an urban fiction, so it's not like this one. But he's got a character in there that I would have killed to have the talent to have written that character. I mean, it's just so good.
Does he read 400 pages a minute?
Yeah, no. If anybody's a genius, behind his back, we call him Amadeus Mozart.
Oh yeah.
He hates it, but he is by far the most brilliant, athletic.
Jeez, because he was just working with Cameron Haynes and Kip Falls and stuff with Once We Were Wolves, right?
Yeah, exactly. He did Once We Were Wolves. He, Brand just on a lark. Mm-hmm. I said, what are you doing? No, I'm doing arm pull-ups today. And I said, what do you mean arm pull-ups? Yeah, it's a competition. He did 1,000 arm pull-ups or whatever, like this in 3 hours. Like 1,000. I can do one.
Is he going after?
No, I can't do one. I'd be lying. I'd tear up my shoulders. Yeah. All the old guys are looking at me going, yeah, sure you can do one.
Is he going after Truett Haynes' new world record there?
Yeah. What was that, 8,000?
8,100 push-ups in 24 hours. But he did it in like 23.
Pull-ups.
Pull-ups.
Yeah.
Pull-ups in 24 hours, But he did it in like 23 and had time left over and was like, all right. That's
one had a sandwich.
Yeah. Isn't that something? I mean,
that's incredible.
Amazing. Yeah, again, Brandlin is just another level of human being.
And then Ava. Ava has her book right now, too, right?
Eva's got Taking Aim. That came out, I think Random House published that a few years ago. Yeah. Evie, she's field-to-table lifestyle influencer.
Yep.
She's got Eva & Co., her brand.
Yep.
It does. I mean, it's
my
amazing.
wife follows that, yeah.
Yeah. How many ladies come up to me at these book signings and, we're happy to see you, but who we really want to see, it's like,
where's your daughter at?
Yeah, where's Eva? Why isn't she here?
Yeah.
Yep.
But she's got her 2 children, Lenny Bo and Boone. They're 6 and 4, just about to be 7 and 5. So she's pretty busy right now.
And you said that Ava's not too far from the location where some of that took place in the book, right? Was it
Pinehurst?
Pinehurst,
North Carolina.
If you go to the Country Club of North Carolina, CCNC, a very famous old North Carolina country club golf. They have 2 courses there, Cardinal and Dogwood. Have a house there on the lake looking at the clubhouse. So if anybody's at the clubhouse looking across the lake with the copper roof, that's ours.
I'd love to be on Pinehurst number 2.
Yeah, that's a good course. But honestly, CCNC is better.
Is it?
Yeah, Pinehurst number 2. I mean, I played the last 9 2 under. It's not a hard course if you're...
Matt's a golf pro. Just an FYI.
Oh, yeah?
I used to be a PGA professional.
Oh, good for you. So my little 7 handicap, you're kind of snuffing your nose.
Well, I'm a has-been, too. That was I was a golf pro for a few years and then...
Still got his varsity jacket.
Became a state trooper. Yeah, I still got the varsity jacket.
Yeah, that's really cool.
If I play a little bit, I can still knock it around.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, it makes me so irritated because it's not physics. Like I'm big, I should be able to hit it far. It doesn't work like that. It's guys that are more compact swings.
When you were at the Murderers bookstore down in Texas just recently, I loved the analogy you made of like I went out the first time and like you just showed up at this bookstore to see.
Yeah, I didn't do any promotion on it.
Right, and you said it was the same time when you went and played golf. You played by the rules and you shot like what, a 137.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I picked up a golf club first time when I was 40 because I wanted a sport. I couldn't swim anymore in my shoulders. I couldn't do water polo for sure. And so I wanted something I could do, and I drove by a golf course. There's guys in their 60s, 70s, 80s golfing. So I thought, okay, that's a sport you can do later. So I went to the golf course, and I played. I remember I played with my brother-in-law and 2 professional hockey players, a foursome. They shot 78, 83, 93, my brother-in-law, and I shot 137. And I was never so humbled in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I'm a good athlete. But the harder you try at golf, the worse you do.
Absolutely.
You tighten up and total opposite. And so I love the game. I think it's got everything. It's very similar discipline to archery. You've got to just be with that moment and not
just let it flow.
Be thinking of every other, I got to up this 20 swing thoughts and 20 shot thoughts. You just have to be in the moment.
That's truly what I enjoyed was that teaching process of trying to get someone there. But and the thing is, I've been everything down to, a scratch golfer. Mm-hmm. But even when you get to scratch, you're like, man, I want to be a plus.
Yeah.
I want to be +1. you'll never perfect it. Even Tiger Woods, whenever he was a plus 12 handicap at one point, I think he was plus 12, something like that, something right, crazy. He still wanted to be better. He still wanted to go out there and shoot 59 every time.
Yeah.
But
and you should. I mean, technically, if you did it once on the same hole, why can't you do it twice? It's just
you play. If you have a golf course you play, you've probably birdied all 18 holes.
Yeah, exactly. Why can't you
go out and birdie all 18 at once?
Because I have a brain that's dysfunctional.
Right. It's the 7 inches between those ears.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, I got down to a 4 at the best, and that was when I got hit with that.
Okay.
So I mean, I'll shoot in the 70s. I'll shoot subpar once in a while, or did. But now
that's playing well, real well.
No, I can play, and that's not. I don't fudge anything, so it is what it is.
We'll have to get together on a scramble team here.
He was going to bring up to you Oakmont Bakery that's close by to here. It's like the #1 bakery in Pennsylvania, literally.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But it's that's where they hold the PGA Tour when it comes to Pennsylvania.
The U.S. Open. Oakmont
yeah.
Country Club.
Oh, okay,
it's like the #2 or #3 hardest course in the country. They have church pew bunkers.
Huh.
And a quick story, I played it one time, and they give you a caddy, and we get to hole 3, and by this time, my thing was, I didn't hit it far, but I could pick out a mower stripe and hit it.
Yeah.
So I line up, and my caddy goes, sir, what are you doing? And I go, what? And he goes, you're aiming at the church pews, and I've seen you. He goes, you hit it that straight. And I go, I want to hit it in those. I don't know if I'm ever going to play here again.
So you want to try?
So I won that's the world famous church pews.
Yeah.
He goes, okay. And he took my bag, and I hit it in the church pews, right in. I'm like, okay, this is going to be cool. I did not realize it's like 8 foot down in these church pews. I look up at him, and I go, why the hell did you let me hit it here? I was even at that point. I was 3 over when I left that hole.
Yeah.
Did you got it out? Did you have to go backwards? Or?
Oh, no, I did get it out. Actually, the hardest part is that the green has kind of like a false edge on the back, and it goes down, and I hit it. I kind of had to scull it out of there intentionally and hit a screamer, and it hit the green and went down back. And if you go behind the green,
then you're still screwed.
Yeah.
I love the game. I truly, and it keeps me in shape. I walk. I don't take carts, and I mean, I used to carry too, but
right
now I got the little remote one.
Absolutely.
That's so
They're
pathetic.
so nice.
Isn't it wonderful getting older?
Well, we're all getting
the
there.
older gentlemen are sitting with smiles on their gray beards on their faces, going,
we're getting there.
Wonderful.
No, but Jared and I brought our dads here. I brought my father-in-law, and I want to say a special thanks before we finish up here to Troy and Leslie. Say your last name for me. Van Drew.
From Heroes Outdoor Therapy.
Yeah, they have Heroes Outdoor Therapy. Check them out. They just drove out here because Jared and I take pictures. We do content on social media for companies. And she had come, and I saw that you posted her on your story. She went to Hamburg to the book signing.
Yeah.
And I took a screenshot and sent it to her. I'm like, oh, look at you, because you gave her a hug, and everyone thought that, she's the coolest person in the room then. And she's like, oh, I'd come take pictures for you guys if you're doing the podcast, but you guys do that. And I'm like, well, Jared and I are going to be talking to him, so if you want to come, you're more than welcome. And they drove over 3 hours to get here today, which is just...
Instead of being on whitetail stand, like, what are you thinking?
Well, Sunday
she's going there tomorrow.
Yeah,
Ohio.
She's going to Ohio.
So. Yeah, I read that.
Thank you guys so much, and please check out Heroes Outdoor Therapy. That's their nonprofit. They're doing some great work.
Yep.
And Jim, thank you again so much. You said easy as pie, and it literally was easy as pie. And
this is fun when you're with kindred spirits. Talking about things that you're passionate about, you don't have to make anything up.
Just flows.
Yeah, it just flows. It's been a blast. Thanks for writing the book. I really enjoyed it. Can't wait for the sequel. And best of luck in your book tour, and best of luck up in Saskatchewan going after those whitetails.
Yeah, I hope it takes me the whole season, frankly. If he shows up on the last minute of the last day, that would be perfect hunt.
Right, absolutely. Okay, well, that's going to do it for the Blueline Bowhunters podcast presented by Mountain Ops. Check out their new immune berries that they have out, and also go out and get yourself a copy of Call Me Hunter.
That's it.
Thanks, guys.
That's a wrap. Thank you very much.
It's an honor, gentlemen.
Check out the Blueline Bowhunters on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or their website, www.bluelinebowhunters.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, watch your six.